Welcome to Plan Project Communication. I will now shortly tell you why project communication is important and why you should pay attention to it. Then I will give you some practical advice how to plan communication when you are submitting a project application. Why communication is first of all, communication justifies your project. The idea here is that if nobody knows what you are doing, then there is no point of doing anything. So people should know about your work, about your project results, and they should be able to use the results of the project. Communication is also important because it supports efficient project implementation. Here we go to the internal communication. When you have a partnership in your project and if one partner doesn't know what the other is doing, then probably you won't be doing very well in your project. So communication is also important internally. Then we come to the funding, to the money part. Communication gives visibility for funding provided by the European Union, Russia, and Finland. Here we have the idea of transparency. Since we are using public funding, the taxpayers have the right to know how the money is used. And then there is also the point that the European Union, the Russia and Finland, they want that they are seen through these projects and their activities. If the taxpayers do not see that this is the way the money is used, then there is really no point for the EU to spend money this way. So only if there is visibility for the program, for the financiers, and of course results as well, we can secure the funding opportunities also for the future. Communication is a contractual obligation, so there are things that you have to do. But I would really hope you do not see it only as a contractual obligation, but as a possibility to implement a better project. Communication and visibility activities should be an essential part of a successful project implementation. A couple of words about external communication. External communication is spreading information about the project and its results to those who are not participating in the implementation of the project. So these are your stakeholders. These are basically the financiers, the managing authority, the end users, the general public, the people who live in the region. Those who are not really working with you, but who might benefit of the results. And external communication validates your work and it gives visibility to the program and the financiers. And for these reasons, it is highly important. Couple of words about the big picture. In the beginning of the programming period, we asked if the people living in the programming region are aware of cross-border cooperation and of the Karelia CPC program. The idea is to ask these same questions again at the end of the programming period. So in the beginning, about half of the people had an idea that there is some kind of cross-border cooperation. There might be some projects or programs. But when we asked how well do you know the Karelia CPC program, the score was 1.29, 1 meaning I do not know it at all. So at least at that point, people living in the program region, they weren't aware of this kind of tool and this kind of cooperation. Then again, in the beginning, the attitude towards the cross-border cooperation in our region, it was quite positive. And this baseline gives us a joint objective. We want that people know about cross-border cooperation, about all the good things that are done in the projects. We hope that the attitude towards cross-border cooperation stays positive. And then we, and by we, I mean both projects and the program, should have examples of results and of positive change, which gives us validation, which gives us the reason to exist. And these are the aim for the communication in general. Then, if we think about internal, the idea here is to keep the project partners well informed about the status of the activities of the project. So here, as I already mentioned before, the idea is to secure efficient implementation of the project. You can understand that if people do not know, if people do not communicate about their joint objective, about their joint activities, there is a high risk that the project will fail. And for that reason, you should pay attention to internal communication. So what do you need to do now? At the moment, you are drafting the application, and as part of the application, you need to answer the questions concerning communication, and you need to submit the communication. Besides drafting the compulsory document, I would like you to really think about the communication. Part of thinking and planning communication is ensuring that you have sufficient resources for communication. So you need both money and personnel. The managing authority is implementing European Cooperation Day every year in September. It says here that the participation is obligatory for all projects. Now that we are living COVID times, we do not necessarily need all the projects present in one location, but this is still something that you should be prepared for. In September 2023, there is probably going to be some kind of activities, and we will ask you to participate to those activities. So be prepared in your work plan and in your budget for this. You have to produce a display panel if you are building anything, if there is any kind of infrastructure or small scale investment included to the project. So then there needs to be a panel saying that this and this has been funded by the Karelia CPC program, by the European Union, Russia and Finland. And then all the partners need to have some kind of poster in the premises. So at the lobby or at the hall of the office, there needs to be this poster telling about the project and telling about the financiers. The website for the project will be covered by the program, including the hosting costs, so this doesn't need to be budgeted. And then again, as a main rule, the PR material is ineligible. So you shouldn't be producing any kind of pens or t-shirts or bags or or anything like that. So these do not need to be budgeted. Then you need to write a communication and visibility plan as an obligatory annex to the application. Here the idea is to create an understanding of the needed communication actions. So you should be thinking, what is the objective of the project? And then try to think what kind of communication needs to be done in order to reach that objective. What kind of communication supports reaching of the specific objective? This is the main point. If the project is approved, then the communication and visibility plan is improved by adding a separate timetable of the communication activities. So this is done as a part of the contracting phase. Timetable is not needed at this point. And then when the project is implemented, if the communication plan needs to be updated, then it can be done. The plan consists of description of the objectives, target groups, means, resources, and indicators. Let's take a look on. First of all, communication objectives. Here it is important to remember that the objectives are the objectives of communication. And this doesn't mean the specific objective of the project. So the communication objective can be, for example, that the project is implemented efficiently, relating to the internal communication that I talked about earlier. And then a good communication objective could be that your target group is aware of the whatever is the result of the project. You could be aiming for keeping the information easily available, or whatever it is that is needed from the communication point of view in your project. Neither the target groups are the same as the target group of the project, but the communication target groups are a wider concept. So when dividing, the target groups include both internal and external groups. So think who are involved in the project. So you could include as the communication target groups, for example, the organizations that are participating in the implementation of the project. Who could be interested in the project? What is the thematic subject of your project? Who might be interested? Try to identify those groups and then include them as the target of your communication. Then also think who should know about the project. To whom are the results and outputs of the project important? And include those as a target group of communication. And then also ask, who would you like to know about the project? For example, would it be nice if the managing authority knew about your results? Or the financiers, or whoever, the people living in the program region maybe. So for example, the target groups can be the partner organizations, similar organizations on different regions, stakeholders, the managing authority, European Commission, for example, inhabitants of the program region. There are plenty of different kind of opportunities. You just need to find the right ones for you. The communication means are the tools and ways you will be using in your communication. So this can be the website, social media, seminars, communication material, whatever it is that you think will be working for your project. And then I would advise to categorize the tools depending on the target group. So, for example, the website might be a good mean of communication for certain target group, but not for all. So you can reach, for example, the parents of the school children through social media, not by the email. And then you can reach the entrepreneurs in a seminar and not through the project website, for example. So try to think which tool will work for which target group. Then, as I already mentioned, you will need resources for communication. And based on the objectives and means, give an estimation of the needed human and financial resources. Will there be a person among the staff who will be responsible of communication? Will everybody on the staff be responsible? How will you deal with that? How much money will you need for communication? And note that the needed resources need to be included to the project budget as well. So it isn't enough that you mentioned in the communication and visibility plan that you need, for example, 5,000 euros for communication activities, and then you do not budget the same amount in the project budget. Communication indicators verify the success of the communication activities. So you can add both quantitative and qualitative indicators. By quantitative indicators, you can measure, for example, the number of people you have contacted, how many followers you have on the social media. And then with the qualitative indicators, you could measure, for example, increased knowledge, change of attitude, use of different kind of tools that you have produced, whatever it is that links to your project. With the qualitative indicators, do not forget the baseline. You need to know what is the attitude in the beginning of your activities. Only then you can measure, calculate the change. The communication plans will be evaluated on the evaluation phase of the applications. So you can get a maximum of 5 points of the communication plan. Make sure you have addressed all the issues I mentioned, the objectives, target groups, means, indicators, and resources in your plan. Because if something is missing, then 3 points is a maximum for the communication plan. Then I would still like to say that I hope you will pay attention to communication, the concept of communication in the project, and not just write that a website will be created. So really think on the point of view of the specific objective of the project. How can communication support the implementation of the project? When the communication plans are evaluated, the question states, does the strategy for dissemination and communication correspond to the objectives and to the target groups of the project? Is the strategy sufficient? So here the idea is that the communication is reflected to the specific objective of the project, as I already said. So, for example, if the specific objective of the project would be that the households do not discharge wastewater directly into a certain river, then the communication should support reaching the objective. And definitely, there should be some kind of activities relating to reaching the households and giving them information on the wastewater problem, for example. And also attention should be paid to the communication of the partner network. and its need to work efficiently. We are now reaching the end of this presentation, and I would like to sum up what I was trying to say. The main point is that please do not forget or ignore the communication activities and communication as a concept when you are planning the project. Because if in the end nobody knows what you did, then there is no point even to start to work.